brand new, opened a new division in Halifax, the Ambassadors Bus Division. So we just purchased that. We have two divisions. So we have the Coach Atlantic, which is the charter for groups, tours, that do group travel or university travel, athletics. And then we have our Maritime Bus Division, which is the scheduled service line run every day from all over the Maritime provinces. The sales manager for Coach Atlantic, and my background was Acadian Lines, which was also before Maritime Bus. So a little bit of both, but I do specialize in the sales part of the travel tourism.
Hi, my name is Do-yeon Kim. I'm a guest services supervisor from the Prince George Hotel in downtown. Prince George Hotel is the only four-diamond hotel with four-diamond restaurant in Atlantic Canada region. And I graduated Mount St. Vincent a couple of years ago, and it's so good to be back.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me. I'm really happy to be here. My name is Jennifer Nicholson, and I work for Parks Canada as Partnering Engagement and Communications Officer for Sable Island National Park Reserve. Some of you may know a lot about Sable Island, and that's great. Some of you may know nothing. So it's our job to try to get more Canadians connected with Sable Island. So I specifically work on media relations and communications. I develop and maintain our partnerships and our stakeholders, and I strive to find innovative ways to connect the public with Sable Island.
So Jen and I worked together, which may have been a giveaway with our nice green uniforms. It was not a coincidence. But my name is George Woodhouse. I work for Sable Island National Park Reserve as well. We don't actually live on Sable Island. It's 300 kilometers away from Halifax in the middle of the ocean. It's just a little sandbar. There's a few wild horses running around, some seals, shipwrecks. So we actually set up our camp here in Halifax, where we go to work every day. Jen mentioned what Sable Island does. We protect that place and try to help it Canadians and people from around the world connect with it. And we also protect it, meaning that there's regulations, and we work for the federal government to make sure that it's protected for future generations. My role is with visitor experience. I'm a visitor experience coordinator, so I help people register when they come to the park. If you want to come to Sable Island, you have to drop a line to me, and I'll get back to you and give you a quality visitor experience. That's my job. So it's really great to be here. Thanks a lot for having us.
Thank you. Okay, so our next question. How has your career evolved? Are you doing what you planned to do, and how have your experiences affected this? And we can start with you again, Tanya.
All right, Coach Atlantic has grown very rapid over the last 5 years, mostly from 2009 when I started. Last year was the big year when we added over 30 brand new, $600,000 motor coaches. So 30 of those really put us on the map, and really the tourism industry on motor coach travel for US and the United Kingdom has grown. I can't even describe how fast and quick, but year to year it just keeps growing. Like I mentioned, the purchase of our largest competitor, which was Ambassadors, the bus division. So that's another big thing. So I am doing what I was planned to do. The department got a lot bigger, so now I can do more things like interacting with customers, follow-ups, clients on tour guides, meeting the tour guides, seeing what they like, seeing what they want more of, attending trade shows. Of course, there's always room for new adventures.
For me, I am doing what I wanted to do since middle school student. I always wanted to work in the hotel because when you go to a hotel, everybody's smiling, right? So I thought everybody would be happy. But it was to get here to be a guest services supervisor. I think it was a little hard for me because when I first came here to Canada, my English wasn't as fluent. So I wanted to get a job in the front desk, but if you can't communicate well, it's a job it's a little hard. So I had to start as room attendant. So slowly learning English a little bit. And second co-op, I did food and beverage server. So now finally front of house, communicating with people. And third year, I made it to the front desk, and I was so happy because it's just so harder for me. I know other people in first co-op experience, you get a job as front desk agent because you can do that. But for me, it was so hard. But I was so happy, and eventually, all the experiences I learned as a room attendant and food and beverage servers, it really helped a lot for me to get promoted as well because overall I had more knowledge than everybody else. So it worked out really well, and I really appreciate the co-op program from this school because it really helped out a lot for me.
This is one question I love when people ask me because I had one of those long and winding roads after I graduated from university. So I studied a Bachelor of Arts in Art History and Psychology, which is kind of random and not the most appropriate program to get a job out of. So I promptly went and got my master's in Heritage Management, which was another kind of iffy choice in terms of practicalities. But after my master's, I worked in the archaeology world for a while, which is something I'm really passionate about. Then I worked in the film world, back in the archaeology world, and then I was in between jobs for a few months. And I ended up getting my lucky break, which came in the form of filing papers for a friend of a friend. So someone said, look, my friend needs someone to help her file some documents for 2 or 3 days. And I thought, okay, well, no harm done. I can for sure do that. And it turned into a really great opportunity for me. So it turns out that woman that I worked with doing that graduated from this program, just like all of you are doing. And she did tourism for Atlantic Canada, so primarily for Prince Edward Island tourism, but also a few other organizations like the Atlantic Canada Airports Association. So I stuck with her, and I became the marketing manager for her business, and I did that for 4 years. And I think without taking on that little job offer, which wasn't the hottest job in the world at the time, it turned into a really great opportunity. So after I did that, I was able to kind of combine my education, which is in heritage management, and my passion for history and archaeology and natural and cultural history with my experience doing marketing tourism. And Parks Canada kind of bridged that gap for me. So I'm really happy doing what I'm doing now. I couldn't have dreamed that this job even existed. So yeah, I'm thrilled about it.
Long and winding road. Could you hear that at the back? That's my story too. Super long and winding, but hey, YOLO. It's something I never ever would have guessed. To be sitting here in front of you today, it's such a privilege because I started working for Parks Canada when I was doing my undergrad. How many people here are at the undergraduate level? Okay, so a good number. When I was an undergrad, I didn't know what a national park was. And now I'm working for Parks Canada, which takes care of national parks, national historic sites, national marine conservation areas. But my way into it was really through joy. I like to play music. I like to sing. I like to write songs. And there was this video contest put on by CPAWS, which is the Canadian Parks and Wilderness Society, never heard of it, and Parks Canada, never really been to a national park. But my friend said we should enter because there's this sweet trip that we could win to the Northwest Territories. I'm like, I've heard of that. So we wrote this song about a place I'd never been to that was supposed to be my favorite national park. And we won the contest. We filmed it in Halifax. It was supposed to be about Gross Moor National Park in Newfoundland. It was filmed entirely in Point Pleasant. But it was my passion for singing and dancing really that led me to discover what Parks Canada was. So when I showed up to Gross Moor and actually saw for myself what this place was all about, I was greeted by people in these green uniforms that said, "Hey, welcome, hello, bonjour, like, you're in Gross Moor National Park. The crust of the earth is exposed here. This is a fjord, like, this," and everything about that place, you could have filmed Lord of the Rings there. It was epic. And I said, this is people's jobs to welcome other human beings to these incredible places that are protected, and there's wildlife, and there's interpretation, and there's stories, and I could get paid for that. So then I looked up, how do I work for Parks Canada? So now here we are. I guess this is like 7 or 8 years later, and similar to Jen, it's just been a journey of saying yes to opportunities, and never forgetting what brings you to life, and what you love to do. And sometimes that gets lost, but always coming back to it has been really important for me.
Thank you. We have, sorry, dealing specifically with your company, describe the hiring process for university graduates. What does your company look for in new hires? We can start again at the table, yeah.
Coach Atlantic and Maritime Bus looks for ambitious, culturally frame of mind individuals, someone who has the right fit for us, with the right energy. Coach Atlantic would train any eligible candidate, supported by a great team that we have on our staff right now. Lots of vice presidents, lots of sales backgrounds, people who've been in the industry for a very long time. So there's no specific what we look for, but definitely someone who's multitask, open to new ideas, put themselves out there, and just willing to learn.
Our hotel is actually very keen to hire university graduates. My human resources manager attend all kinds of career fairs to meet with graduates. Actually, just last week, I think our human resources team went to CBU to meet some of other students. And it's an interesting story for me how I met my hotel, because through the school there is a program called Career Services, and I attended there to get a job after graduate. And there was a thing called mock interview. It's like you pretend you're in the interview and the person tell you how your interview skill is. So I'm like, that's great. So I can increase my interview skill. So I went there to get the mock interview done, and the person who was interviewing me was my current human resources manager. And after our mock interviews done, she was like, so are you looking for a job? I'm like, yeah. She's like, why don't you have a look with my front desk manager? I'm like, sure, that's awesome. So I never even had to put my resumes out there, because with the career service it was mock interview, but it was actually real interview for me. And I think that's what's important. If you're willing to get a job, go around the hotels, expose yourself in career fairs, or all those career service. I found it's super helpful in the university here as well. So you have to go out there. From our hotel, the people we're looking for is who's able to multitask, and hotel industry is generally very fast-paced. So you have to be able to work in fast-paced under under certain pressure. But I think these are all the things. As long as you have passion, you can do it. So that's what we're looking for from our hotel.
Yeah, I think just to echo, I think George will talk about this too, but one thing that I notice with all of my colleagues at Parks Canada is we all are just overflowing with passion for what we do. Everyone I work with has a drive and a passion for promoting natural and cultural heritage. And I think when interviewing and when applying, you need to be very clear about that, because some people will apply and it's kind of like, oh yeah, sure, I could work here, but there are people out there who would just bang down the door to work in a place that promotes these things. So I think if you've got a passion, I think you have a big head start against the others. In terms of application processes, the federal government application process is really time consuming. One tip I have is that when you're applying for federal public service jobs, be very specific in your application. So if they're saying, how do you fit this requirement? You have to say X, Y, Z. This is how I fit it. These are the examples. these are the times that I did that, and it completely summarized exactly how you fit every single requirement. It may seem very redundant, but they're going to go through and check literally everything that you write to make sure that you do satisfy all the requirements. So it is a little bit different in that way. We actually just spoke with our HR team this morning, and a few things they suggested were the FSWEP program. I'm not sure how many of you are familiar with it, but it stands for the Federal Student Work Employment Program. So those are countrywide positions, so you could be pulled from a pool and work in Nunavut, or you could be working out west in Banff. You'll basically be pulled, and you can choose which areas you're willing to move to or not, but it can be an incredible, incredible way to get in with the agency. Further to that, there is job postings at jobs.gc.ca, and these jobs get posted in January. So look online in January and be very continuously look, because the job postings can only be posted for a window of sometimes 2 weeks at a time. So if you miss that window, then you're out of luck. So set up a few alerts on your phone so you get email notifications so you actually do find out about these. But it can be a really quick process in January. So January, February is when you should be really watching.
Yeah, the job process for any level of government, I hate to say it, but Jen put it nicely. It's time consuming. However, there's so many different departments, and if you go on to jobs.gc.ca, not only Parks Canada is there, but there's all kinds of agencies you might not have even heard of. Department of Fisheries and Oceans, or transport, or stats. I mean, those are the big ones that people have heard of, but then there's some sneaky ones that you're like, that's a department? It's like, you bet. So if you create a pool, or if you join a pool, it goes a long way. How many people here speak more than one language? Okay. That's awesome. You don't need to speak more than one language all the time, but if you do, I'd say lead with that. We're living in a world where there's so many languages spoken, and we need to serve each other in the language of the visitor's choice. In our case of Parks Canada, that is usually French or English, but we're seeing it more and more in national parks and national historic sites, where it's a huge asset to have someone on our team that can speak Arabic, for example. I used to work in Halifax with the Learn to Camp program, and we would take people camping, and often there was a huge language gap. So if you're looking at jobs this summer and you see Learn to Camp and you have language abilities, I mean, that would be awesome to be able to help Parks Canada bridge that gap with the people that we're trying to connect with and serve. What else do I have written here for this question? Understanding the agency's priorities. Ugh, that's such a government sentence. But put it this way, in plainer terms, find out what organization or company you want to work for. You can do this by going up to them and being like, why do you do what you do? And so if you ask Parks Canada, it's like, well, we do this because we believe we have to protect these things in order for them to be presented to future generations. And if you think that's cool, well, then you can start to go through that website and see what their mandate is. And if you show up to an interview or in a job application and you say, I know these things are important to you, then you've got our attention. And suddenly we can really understand why you would be a good fit. And then everything else can be trained. So have that passion, find an organization that you want to work for, and then Google them.
Thank you. So we have a lot of people in the room who someday would like to become senior managers. How can they accomplish this goal? We can start at the opposite end of the table, or
Yeah, give you a break, Tanya. You've been breaking the ice for us all morning here. Okay, so this is maybe a good segue from the last point I was making. I was recently at a conference, and the keynote speaker, who was the former CEO of Parks Canada, said something really interesting. He said, you can choose your role. You can see a job title and you can say, oh yeah, I'd really like to do that. But at the end of the day, what could be more valuable is choose your boss. If you know somebody who hires people and you're like, that is a good human being. I like being around them. I like the way they do things, their values, the way they do their work. If you can surround yourself with good bosses in your career, your growth is it's going to be on another level. So if you can choose your boss, then you're setting yourself up for success, even if the job might not seem like it's one that's totally up your alley. Otherwise, if you're in an organization and you're like, I feel stuck, I don't know what to do, have the courage to go up to somebody who's at a more senior level and say, hi, can we go for coffee? I have some questions. And just have a conversation. It's really about having a conversation with people and asking for their stories. Like, this panel is awesome. And it's times 10 more awesome whenever you can sit down with someone and you have each other's undivided attention. So go for it, no matter what organization you're with, government or non-government. And then with the government, there's usually networking events you can attend where, senior executives will speak and tell you about how they got there. But the one-on-one time, it's free and it's available to you, and not enough people do it. So over to you, Jen, with the weather.
Thank you, George. I think one thing that has served me the best throughout my career thus far has been having a yes attitude. So not letting any task or any position being beneath you. You might start out and say, well, gee, this position isn't quite what I had in mind, but maybe that position could lead into something incredible, and you really can't predict that. Whether it's saying yes to filing documents for a person you've never met for a few days, or saying, hey, something needs to be swept over there, would you mind doing it? Yes, of course I can do that. I think that really serves you really well, and people take notice of that. The person who has the yes, can do attitude will be way better served in the future. So I think that's one of the biggest ways you can work your way up the career ladder. But also, I guess just being able to consistently add value. So always trying to optimize, always trying to make things better. I think that people really respect that, and I think that's a good way that you can help yourself as well.
I know a lot of people in the hotel specifically that they're happy where they are now. They're like, yeah, I'm good where I am. I'm happy with my set schedule. I'm not looking for any more challenge. And with that, you can't go higher. In my case, even to be promoted a little bit, I had to constantly let others know that, oh, I'm interested in that job. I eventually want to be here, and I keep bothering my manager to train me and teach me this, teach me that. And I know he's a little bothered, but he appreciate my passion. He appreciate my initiative, and he knows that I'm gonna go higher up. So I think the most important thing is your willingness to grow, and you have to keep it, not like those people, oh no, I'm happy here, I'm not looking for any more challenge. I think you shouldn't forget about what you want to be eventually, and you have to keep your keep working to your way up there. Like, you shouldn't forget what you want to be. And as long as I think you keep that, and you keep other people to be better and better and better, you're going to be better. And yeah, I think you can get there eventually.
I would say working hard, maybe a little extra. Learn a little extra to learn on your own. Not always be expecting of something, but just kind of do it on your own. Especially things where you say, I want to be that person. Well, work towards it. Like, nothing's stopping you for being the person that you want to be. Be loyal, get involved, ask lots of questions. Help other colleagues, step in. Hands-on experience, of course, is always best. I have to second what George said about having the courage to ask higher ups. I was in that position once where, I was doing pretty big contracts, and then, the Department of National Defense, well, that is a huge contract. I wanted that. I wanted to so understand that, and, finally, after sitting there and doing it with him, all aspects, it's a very big thing for me, and I got there. So, and it was just keep asking, willingness to learn. Never, ever, ever underestimate yourself, because if you have the thought that you want to do something and you follow through with it, you will.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Apologies for the phone. I don't know where that's coming from. So hopefully it won't go again. So what keeps you going to work every day? Could you give us an example of like an experience or an event that's really made your day?
Cool. We can start down here again?
Sure.
Okay. I'm going to leave the Sable Island possible story for Jen, and I'm actually going to go to a previous role I had with Parks Canada this time last year when I was working as the Learn to Camp coordinator. We would invite families, in many cases, families who were new to Canada, but any family or any person could come that just didn't know how to camp and wanted to learn. And we would share this experience, guide them through the process. And one time, I was walking around the Halifax Citadel, and somebody came up to me, and I recognized them, but I didn't know from where. And they're like, "George, Parks Canada. I was at a Learn to Camp event last year, and we just got back from our second camping trip. We went with our family, and we had a great time. Like, thank you so much." And whenever you have tunnel vision of your job, you're doing it, and it gets done, and that's great, and you move on to the next thing. But when there's those moments where something circles back and hits you out of the blue, and you realize that what you're doing isn't just changing that person's day, it could be changing their life, and there might be a new family tradition out of it. It's really the greatest and most rewarding thing, and that's what I love about the tourism industry in general. I mean, our job is to help people make those memories that will not just make their trip worth it in a dollar sense, but will make their lives better. And that is a huge privilege. I think we have one of the most privileged roles out there. So go camping.
Thanks for letting me have the Sable Island story time, George. I feel so honored. Actually, this story that I do have, that when I hear that question, there was one specific moment this past summer that really stands out to me. And to introduce it, when George first started his position, he gave us a workshop. All of the people on our team, he gave a quality visitor experience workshop. And the whole idea was to teach everybody on our team to be able to provide a quality experience to every visitor. So no matter if you were the financial assistant or the ecologist or, like me, the communications person, we should all know how to handle visitors and give them the best quality experience that we can. So one of the biggest takeaways from that was to meet people where they are. So not expecting them to come to you and get to your level, but meeting them where they're at. And maybe that means, helping them with something they need, or, if they've got one prerogative for their day, helping them achieve it. So not making it about what you're interested in or what you want the day to look like, but helping them facilitate their needs. So one day this summer, I had the opportunity to welcome some visitors to Sable Island. A trip to Sable Island is no easy feat. It is 300 kilometers away, and it involves a pretty expensive plane ticket. So oftentimes the people who do visit Sable Island, it's kind of like a life bucket list type thing, where they save for many years and they make this trip happen. And usually when they go, they want to see two things. They want to see horses and they want to see seals. So it's really important to make sure both of those things happen. There was one woman in particular. She had just celebrated her 60th birthday, and she had saved up her, she worked part-time at a place, I can't recall where, but she had saved up all of her paychecks for the last 5 years, and this was her big celebration. This was how she was going to treat herself for her 60th birthday. So this day meant a lot to her, and it's not an overnight experience, it's just a single day trip. So there's a lot riding on that one day. So, when visitors arrived, they had kind of been wandering and doing their own thing and exploring the island. And I was there doing a photo shoot with a photographer. And we came upon her on the beach. And I said, "How are you doing?" And she said, "I'm not good." And I said, "Well, what's wrong? What's going on?" And she said, "I haven't seen a single seal. And I've been wandering this beach for, an hour. And I'm so afraid I'm going to leave here and I'm not going to see a seal." And I said, well, let's try to fix that. So I got her in our little side by side little car thing, and I said, we're gonna find some seals. And it took us a while. I don't know where the seals were that day, but they were hiding. Usually they're a bit more present. But after a while, we were able to find her some seals. She got some pictures. She got to kind of soak that in. She got to see some horses, and she went from being very distraught and very stressed and very anxious because she thought I had spent so much money of my savings on this, and I thought the day was ruined. And by the end of the day, she gave me a big hug with tears in her eyes, and she said, "Thank you so much." And I was so happy that even as a media person, like doing communications and things like that, I was able to help a person and give them a quality visitor experience, just like George wanted me to. So it was definitely the highlight of my year so far. So
I think it's the same for me. It's the people I work with and I deal with makes me to go to work like every day and getting excited about work. What happened in our hotel was this lady was planning her trip to come to the hotel, and she had a best friend, but I think she was like recently diagnosed as cancer or something like that. She's gonna be passed away soon. So this plan was all about her friend who's gonna, be gone in a couple of months. So like it was last special trip for them, and we wanted to make it special, right? So we had to have like deep conversation with the person who was booking, that what's her name, what does she like what does she like, in movie. Apparently she liked this specific movie and things. So what we did was we took all the pictures of the room and we filled it with their pictures because it's their trip. So we put their movie pictures and their pictures and wrote a letter, just to make a special memory. And of course, when this lady came, she was like crying and oh, it was just such a special experience. And when they came here to say thank you, I could feel like I could really feel that I made their day, and I helped to make such a special experience. And it's that kind of thing really make me happy at work. Not only that like tragic experience, birthday, anniversary, something that's small, still I'm happy to help them, celebrating, making their special day in the hotel. It's something like that, and I'm so happy when I'm a little part of their special day, and that's what makes me go to work every day.
All right. Learning, socializing, and meeting new people is my fuel for work every day. I thrive on that. I love it. I love talking to people. The tourism industry is never dull, always something to learn, fun, very extremely challenging. You almost have to be like a split personality kind of person to deal with the industry because there's just so many types. But at the end, there's just so many examples to list. I wouldn't know to pick one. The main one is that every single day that I talk to someone or book a trip for somebody, or, you know, it's helping them make memories with our bus company. So they, meet the driver. They have 12 days with the driver, or even if it's just a single day, they make friends. So they're making memories every single day with our company, and it starts with me. So that's a big fuel for me. The follow up is my favorite part. So calling people after they've returned, how did everything go? Was it what you expected? Did you see what you wanted to see? How was the driver? How were the people that you met? And like the stories are just unbelievable. Some have met their wives, some have met their husbands, some have met their best friends. That's the best part. Um, a personal, I guess, experience. I deal with a lot of hockey groups and a lot of university hockey, a lot of sports. The big guys like the Quebec Major Leagues, the Toronto Maple Leafs, Montreal Canadiens, all those kind of hockey things. And I have a son who's in hockey, and I thought, I want to try this. I want to do this. So we were having a pretty good year, and I said to the coach, like, let's book a bus and do the provincials. So, like, we did that, and never would we ever thought we'd win, and we won the provincials last year, and it was like the bonding of those kids And it was like you're at a high level with the Montreal Canadiens and you try it with little kids and it was just it's amazing. So now more hockey teams are doing this, more people are traveling by groups, and just hearing people's experiences is that's all I need every day.
Thank you for sharing your experiences. I don't know about everybody else, but it certainly makes me feel like, it's worth it to have a job where you want to go to work every day and you love going to work every day. It makes your day and it makes your customers' day. So, thank you. So our next question: what are the most important skills people need in the tourism and hospitality industry? Whoever wants to get rolling can, yeah.
All right, the biggest one would have to be communication. Communicating with your peers, communicating with your superiors, communicating with your clients. That is my ultimate 100%. You need that. Second, I guess, would be ability to work under pressure because the tourism industry can be pretty nasty at times, very challenging, but working under pressure strives you to get what you need done. Time management and flexibility, those would be my other two. But yeah, communication definitely number one.
In the hotel, I think the most important thing is people skill. You have to care about customers. At first, when I first started front desk, I was like very curious why those people are telling me it's their birthday. I'm like, okay, congratulations. I'm like, what do you want me to do? But as grow, I learned to care about people. I'm like, now my reaction is like, oh my god, it's your birthday. Like how many years? That's so exciting. Like it's just I learned how to have people skill in the hotel, and I think it's really important because when you go to the hotel and when you say it's our 10th anniversary and you're telling it because you think it's very special, right? And if the person who's checking you in say like, oh, congratulations, it's like, oh, this person really doesn't care. Like, why am I even here? Like, paying like hundreds of dollars. But that's like one of the most important thing. You have to care about people you're dealing with. Also, you have to care about your peers. Like in the hotel, as Tanya said, it has to be very flexible. Like all of a sudden, like someone's getting, like someone's dealing with family issues, has to go away for a couple of days, and everybody, the whole team has to be flexible to support her, and that flexibility is always much appreciated in hotel industry. So I think that two things are very important skills.
Yeah, I think you nailed it, Diane. I agree fully, especially on the flexibility side of things. I guess my key word would be adaptability. Being able to pivot when things go wrong or things don't go as planned is just an important everyday thing you need to work into your repertoire. And I think that goes across most jobs, but specifically with tourism, when you're dealing with people every day, you might anticipate things will go one way and they're going to go the completely other way, and you have to be on your feet and happy and ready to take the changes as they come.
All of those things, and I'm going to do a little mind experiment here. It's not actually a mind experiment at all when I think about it. If you are a server, or if you are a guest services attendant, or if you are working in the kitchen, you can be that role. But no matter what role that is, be helpful, be caring, be observant, and be hardworking. No matter what role you're doing, if you can be helpful to someone, you're doing your job great. If you can be observant, it means that you can stand on your own and work on your own when you need to and take care of people. If you can be, what was the other one? Caring? Well, you're going to give that people that feeling of safety, like they're taken care of. And if you can be, my last one. Those three things are pretty good anyways. So, I mean, the fourth was a bonus if you remember what that was. But we'll leave it at there for now.
Thank you. How important is developing a career path, and how might you go about this, or how could the students here today go about this?
Okay, I'll start by saying I don't have a whole lot to say here. The question is about developing a career path. Plans are great. There's this quote I'm going to try and think of right now that I won't be able to think of. It was something to do with like it's really important to have a plan, but it's more important to like not do it or something. Ah, jeez. Maybe Tanya, we can go to you, and I'm gonna just think about this.
I personally feel any job can become a career. It's what you put into it is what you'll get in return. What makes you happy every day is when you know that it's right. Write your visions down, make the step towards your visions, and then just set the goals and watch you reach them. Anything you want to do, like I always said, just shoot for it. It will come. It's going to be a lot of hard work, but it will, if you want it, you will get it. It's just what you put into it.
I think in my first year, there was an assignment to have a career plan, career path. So I made it, I made it like room attendant, server, front desk agent for like 5 years, and then guest services supervisor for like 5 years. And I thought I would finally be able to be a manager after 13 years. And here I am after like 1.5 2 years. I was be able to promote it. And my career plan, because I'm very like I have to plan every single thing. I like planning, like today I'm gonna do this from this time, and I planned my career path like that, and it's not even close. It's not going there, but I still have my final goal as my career plan had, and I know what my next step is thanks to career path. So I think it's really helpful when you are not sure. I don't know what to do. Like it's helpful to write it down, but don't be like me. Like 2019, I'm gonna do this. 2020, I'm gonna do this. It's not gonna work like that. But in personal opinion, career path has been super helpful for me.
I agree fully with both of what you said. Tanya, the idea of doing like a vision board is super, super helpful. I found some days when I was just kind of lost right out of university, and I thought, I don't know what to do with myself. And, jobs aren't plentiful, and they weren't at that time specifically. And I found that just taking a notebook and just spending a few minutes and writing down some things that I was interested in and seeing if there was any common denominator there, and seeing, okay, well, what organizations or employers in this country kind of cover all of these. And, 10 years later, I ended up with Parks Canada, which is exactly summarizes beautifully all of my interests. So I think that's a really good exercise, and I think it may seem, not super worthwhile at the time, but it can really help guide you and put you on the straight path. So I would say that a career path, like Doyen said, I don't know about like putting timelines and things like that, because curveballs are going to come, and they might be good, they might be bad, but I think it's really important to take every opportunity as it comes. So I would say follow your interests and see where the possibilities lead you.
So I didn't remember the quote at all, but I was so inspired by what everybody was saying that to build off of that, a career path is something that I can see when I look on my like Facebook memories. I can look in my life and say, wow, this is where I've been. These are the moments where I was doing work that really made me feel alive. This was a moment where I was miserable, and it might have had nothing to do with my job, but you can look back and see that path and just see where you were your best self. And sometimes it has something to do with your work, sometimes it doesn't. I just say, moving forward, set yourself up to be your best self. Take care of yourself. Self-care is really important, no matter what industry you're in. And then your career path will unfold in a lot nicer of a way, I imagine, if you're showing up to work every day and you feel like you're getting what you need, not just from your work, but from yourself and from your support networks. So, a little big picture message there.
Great, thank you. Are there member organizations that students or graduates should get involved with to help them along with their experience and their path?
Chamber of Commerce, every city has one That is a very good start. Tourism industry associations are very good as well. Destination management companies, and of course the biggest one, social media. Like, follow people. Um, you'll never ever know what could come out of that. Social media has basically taken over, so you might as well use it to your advantage because it's not going away.
I'm so surprised Tanya mentioned Chamber of Commerce as well because that's what I learned when I was in career services and it sounded super helpful. They like have more than 100 events every year. So that's one good thing. And I know in the school there's a tourism and business society. Every time I try to go, I failed, but next time maybe I can go. But it looked like it's super helpful. Also, career fairs are really good because I know a lot of our hotel new hires met our human resources manager or general manager over there. So bring like lots of resume so you can like meet people and hand it out to them. Who knows, like 5 of them might contact you, 10 of them might contact you. So just like attend every possible event if you can, and I think it's gonna be helpful.
Those events are so important, and really try to embrace them when you're there. Like, try to meet with people, even if it's something like Chamber of Commerce, tourism industry associations are so great. Also, just things you're interested in. Like, I joined the Nova Scotia Archaeology Society because it was something I was interested in, and I made a whole pile of great contacts there because when you're at these meetings, you can kind of meet people, meet the speakers, talk to them, see what their opportunities are. Just try to really embrace everything you do go to. I think that will be really helpful.
To be specific about Parks Canada, a national park is a really interesting thing, or a national historic site. Parks Canada is there, but there's so many other things and people there. So Kejimkujik, for example, this is a national park and national historic site in Nova Scotia. If you go to Keji, you'll meet Parks Canada people, but you'll also meet Friends of Kejimkujik, which is a volunteer organization that does cool like turtle research in the nighttime. You'll meet Why Not Outfitters, who will rent you your canoes. And these are all organizations that have a different perspective on the same thing. And I'll tell you, Jen and I work for Parks Canada here in the government, but I would never recommend anyone to like get into the government and like stay there for life. Like, I know that's kind of the golden handcuff myth, but the more perspective that you can gain on something you care about, the better your life will be, because you can get to the table and you can bring something that is more holistic, something that will really add value, just like what Jen was saying. And in the meantime, the society thing, oh yeah, it's join societies, join the things that you actually want to show up to. And when you've joined too many, know when to leave.
Okay, great, thank you. For our last question, we're wondering if you can please describe some of the changes in the industry that you have seen in the last 5 years. What changes or trends do you see going forward? We can start at the end with George, yeah.
Okay. I noticed, Jen and I were talking about this morning, I noticed that, at least in the government world, that there is an effort. It's slow moving, but it's happening, where large organizations like the Government of Canada are trying to offer more flexible work environments. So if you're turned off by some, big machines like, the government or, massive corporations, but you really like the work that could be done in there, there is more job flexibility. I'm noticing more attention being paid to things like mental health, things like being able to work remotely. These are all changes that are coming with the 21st century, and organizations are starting to catch up, realizing that if we want the best, new talent and bringers of value to our groups, that we've got to be flexible. So I just want to report a little bit of good news from the government.
One thing I've been noticing more and more across all tourism departments and areas is ecotourism. I think across the board, I think people are really becoming way more considerate of the choices they're making when they travel. Even simple changes, like if you work at a hotel, maybe you can pitch to your manager if it's not already on the docket, hey, why don't we change from those little plastic bottles to, a big bottle of shampoo? And people will really respect that and then choose to go with you again because they know that you are making responsible and sustainable choices. Perhaps it's with airfare and offsetting with carbon credits. Those are super important. I'm just noticing more patterns here, and I think, well, even with us at Parks Canada, ecotourism, that things like volunteering for conservation efforts. People are willing to spend their money in those areas to help build a more sustainable world. So I think that's one thing that it might be even if you do get a new position this summer or something like that, or you're doing a work term, maybe think about ways that you can get that organization more on the ecotourism bandwagon.
I'm so proud that you mentioned because in the hotel we do have like the volume product instead of that little plastic. So yeah, that's awesome. And surprisingly, lots of people compliment about it. They're like, "I'm so glad you have volume product. I'm so glad you have reuse the towel system, like kind of those things." People are very, very. I feel like we're getting more and more comments about it. So I totally agree with that. What I noticed is that in the hotel, a lot of people expect like higher and higher technology. Just the other day, I was checking people in, and he was like giving me his phone. So I'm like, sorry, well, like what do you, like like do you want me to, like what are you? And he's like, can you put my room key in my phone? I'm like, where do you do that? He's like, oh, in Toronto, and I'm like, I'm sorry, our hotel doesn't have that technology yet. So I'm like, I know that's a technology out there, not in our hotel yet. Also, another one I noticed is there's this technology that because it gets really people can get really annoyed when room attendants are knocking the door when they're inside, but there's this technology to show this room's vacant, this room's occupied, people have left, now you can clean the room. So that's another cool technology I noticed. And the last one I want to mention is when I was room attendant like 5 years ago, I had a piece of paper and I had to write like, I'm done this room. Room 202, I'm done. Room 203, I'm not gonna do it. It's do not disturb, something like that. But now apparently people have this room attendant have the machines. So like 201 done, 202 done, and like they do it on machine. So the supervisor can see it on the machine and they know like, oh, this room's ready, this room's not ready. So it's like lots of technology I'm noticing in the hotel industry.
For the transportation industry, in the travel industry, I guess diversity in the Maritimes, what the Maritimes now has to offer, as opposed to like a few years back. A lot of the popular Peggy's Cove, Hopewell Rocks in New Brunswick. Now you're seeing more and more cultural events happening, and people are actually engaging that into their itinerary, kitchen parties and going to the Aboriginals and making those really awesome baskets, or like there's just so many things that are showing up on itinerary, so people are getting more involved with what kind of diversity is happening. Fuel cost has made more people travel as in groups on buses, so that's how I said like we've noticed a huge increase on group travel, as opposed to 50 cars, well, 50 people on one bus. And we have eco-friendly buses and all that kind of stuff. So it definitely adds to what I guess the problem might have been a few years ago. More hotels are going up, and of course the biggest one, social media. Like I can't emphasize enough on how big social media has an impact on the industry. Once 5 or 6 people see this magnificent place and everybody's talking about it and everybody's commenting about it, well, these 20 people, they want to go, right? So social media is amazing. More and more travelers are choosing this way, and by motor coach is very noticeable.
Awesome, thank you. I would now like to open up the floor for student questions. So if you have a question, you can just raise your hand. And I believe we have a mic that Paulette will come around with the microphone if you'd like to ask a question. questions? Okay. Okay, well, I have a question. So, if you could give the students here today any piece of advice, what advice would you give them? We could start at either end of the table, or whoever wants to go ahead.
You're going to face challenges that, are going to bring you really down, or, oh, someone else got that job that you wanted, or, oh, that's just too difficult, or, oh, I don't have the funds to go that far. Don't go to that level. Just, what can I do next? So always keep the vision and strive towards it. There's help. There's lots of people that can give you advice. Like I said, going to these little try mixers, they're free with the Chamber of Commerce, little business after fives. Get some business cards, just, even if they say student, your name, your Facebook page, whatever, get your name out there. You never know who you're going to meet and who's going to need your help and where it can lead.
I'd say be open to opportunities. Like you never know, like my mock interview, you never know where it's gonna come from. Like you have to attend a lot of conferences or meetings as possible, and even though it's not exactly what you're looking for, who knows where it's gonna turn out. So like be open to those things and involve yourself into those things.
Yeah. I totally second what both of you said. I think, it also just comes down to working hard and adding value where you can. So if you see a little area where, someone hasn't done something in your organization, see if it's possible. Speak with your manager and say, hey, maybe we should think about doing this, and I'd love to spearhead it. That will add value to you. And I think the manager usually really appreciates that kind of get up and go from their employees.
Ask yourself a question and then spend the time really trying to answer it. And the question is, what is important to you? You are going to be so much more efficient in your journey, and you're going to be able to give the gifts that you have, and you all have gifts. I can see it. This room is like a big gift party. Ask yourself what's important to you, because if you can do that and you can reflect on that, and you don't have to come up with a super clear answer, but spend the time thinking about it so that you can gravitate towards where you're supposed to be. And you will, but you'll only do that if you bring that importance that's unique to you to the surface. And that will lead you to Parks Canada, to Coach Atlantic, to the Prince George Hotel, or the moon. Who knows? But that's where you're going to be your best self.
Thank you so much. Any other questions for our panelists today?
Hi, so I think three of the panelists mentioned about passion, and I knew that like most students, they don't have their passion at this point yet. And you were saying that, oh, if you have passion, you have a better start in this industry. So how would you encourage those students who are still figuring out their life, like see what their passion is? So it might be similar to like, oh, what would you be your advices, but how would you actually, like, you will never know what your passion would be. So how would you say, like, to encourage those students to not give up on this industry?
I think that's a really good question, and I would just perpetually try new things. I never knew that my passion lied in communications and marketing. I didn't even know that. I knew that I had friends studying that in university, but I didn't even know what it was about. I didn't know what the job meant, and I frankly didn't know that it was a passion that was just waiting to bubble at the surface. So it's not to say that the person who has passion necessarily has a head start, but being passionate about whatever it is you want to achieve at that organization is important. So, maybe you don't have one particular passion. I don't. I've got like 15, and they're all just kind of, like I'm not an expert in any specific topic. I just really get excited about different things, and I think that's how some people are, and some people just have one thing that they're really excited about. But I think open yourself up to new opportunities, and if someone says, like they did to me, hey, would you like to, work with me on some communications? Sure, maybe I'd love it, you know? And it turned out I did. And I was so grateful for that opportunity. So, you know, a passion could be right around the corner. And I think just keep at it.
May I just add to that? A passion, it's easy to think of it as a thing, like hockey. I love hockey. Hockey is my passion. It's easy. Or I want to be an astronaut. A passion is more of this thing that you constantly are just trying to like uncover from within you. So if you can just show up to the things that where it might be, get out there. You know, if you're gonna watch Netflix tonight, like, or you could go to this society, you know, fair, or you know, someone invited you to something. You're like, that's not really my thing. Like, I challenge you, and this is the undergrad challenge of the century. Just show up. Just show up and then see what happens. And if nothing happens, then Netflix is still there when you get home. So, but I'm actually, my New Year's resolution is to watch more Netflix because I'm feeling, I'm feeling really like out of touch with most conversations.
He literally never watches any TV, so I can second that.
But I will watch more.
For me, I knew since I was like young, I knew that, oh, I want to work in the hotel, but I didn't know what. Like, I know I'm passionate about hotel work, but like when I started like working there, there are so many more jobs than what I thought, and I just had to try like different jobs, and I finally figured out, oh, this is what I like. And I had to ask some questions to myself. Do I like working with people? Do I like working with lots of people? Or do I like working with like just small team? Or do I want to work by myself? I had to just like I had to be exposed in different environments to know what I like. And now I know exactly what I like, and I know there out there there could be some job I like more. Maybe I'll have to try it. I'm willing to try it if there's anything good. But I think you just have to keep trying what you like.
Yeah, what everybody said. But I guess it's funny how life works, actually, because I come from a background, I was a manager at Wendy's for like 10 years attending college. Never not what I wanted to do, for sure. I was in my head, I wanted to be an air traffic controller. I wanted to travel, and that was what I wanted to do. Well, working at Wendy's as a manager was not that. However, an opportunity came up, like, do you want to work for a bus company? I was like, oh, I don't want to do bus. I want to travel by plane, right? Like, but then it led into, oh, well, you're going to do a New York trip and you're going to go see New York. And then, oh, well, you won a trip by air because you know, you were at this association. And it just kept evolving and evolving and evolving. And my management skills at Wendy's enabled me to multitask, you know, give people what they want. So nothing is ever, like I always say, don't ever underestimate yourself. You never know what you're going to get here that's going to bring you up here. You're going to use those skills no matter what. So there's lots of passion, but it's about you. So as soon as you know what you want, your passion is just going to grow.
Thank you for the question.
Thank you.
Do we have any more student questions? No?
I have a
Okay. Oh,
I have a question, just about. Can you tell us a bit about whether or not you've had a mentor or somebody that's helped you to move along in your career, and maybe how you found that person and what they were able to, how they were able to help you?
I'll go. All right, so I attended a Greater Moncton Chamber of Commerce event. It was a networking event. I had no idea what I was doing. My manager just said, well, just go try it, see what's there. You know, there's car salesmen, there's air traffic people, there's a taxi company. I was like, okay, whatever. So I go and I meet Charlene Fox, who was in the tourism industry. She worked for the city of Moncton into the conferences, events, and all those attractions in New Brunswick. And she said, you know, what do you want to do? And I said, I don't know. I want to be with people. I want to deal with people every day, and I want to make memories with them, and I want to hear the good news and always happy. So she says, well, come to this trade show. And I was like, oh my gosh. So I went to my boss. I was working for Acadian Lines, just doing the regular service, like Moncton to Halifax every day scheduled fare. I was working at the call center giving out schedules and fares, and I mentioned it, do you ever think that we could go? And she says, yeah, go. And she was my mentor for the thing, and I had meetings, met different people who planned itineraries from the States, bringing people to Canada, showing them the Maritimes, and I followed her, and I listened to her, and I took notes and notes and notes, and now I was a mentor to 2 people on the last show that I went to in Newfoundland in October. So it's just, you just never know. And I never would think I would be here now if I looked back 15, 20 years ago. But
For me, the previous hotel I worked, I could kind of feel that my manager wasn't so interested in, evolving people, So this current hotel, when I met my manager for the interview I went, I could feel like he's interested in my growth. He wanna know, but he never really volunteer. It's something you have to seek for. So I always go bother my manager. So how do you do this? What do you think about this? To learn as much. He never volunteered to be my mentor, but I'm like, you're my mentor. Now I'm gonna ask you lots of questions, and he doesn't seem like he's minding it. So I keep doing that, and now he's my great mentor.
I think that's so true. Whether they like it or not, try to make your manager your mentor. I was really lucky with the woman I told you about who hired me for 4 years. She became one of the best mentors I've ever had. She constantly helped me grow and improve, and I allowed space for that, and I really respected her knowledge, and I think people really kind of respect that in turn, because if you have a manager that you say, well, gee, I want to be just like you, and you can learn so much from them, and they will make space for you, and they want to see you grow, and I think it's so special when you're able to do that in return to somebody else. I think it's a really wonderful thing. So I think if you're lucky to have a great manager like we are, I think that will go a long way, and just try to squeeze everything out of them and all of their knowledge, because they're where they are for a reason usually.
And the odds are, if I say the word mentor, there's probably someone that's popped into your head right now. It's not like it's a new concept that you haven't had until coming to MSVU. It's like, I guess I need a mentor. There's so many different kinds of mentors. And if you can have one in your workplace, that's awesome. But think about the ones that maybe you only see them or talk to them once a year. There's still somebody that you should keep in touch with, because there's something about them that you have to learn. And the best way to receive a lot from a mentor is to put yourself in the position to be a mentor. So spend time around peers, or maybe someone who's in a year, before you, or if you're year 2, go talk to someone in year 1 and be like, hey, let's go for coffee or tea.
Thank you.
Thank you so much to our panelists for giving us their time today. Let's give them a big round of applause for being here.